Okay, so remember that the formula for standard deviation is is P times Q divided by N, and we take the square root. So it's going to be 0.27 times 0.73 divided by 108, and I take the square root. And I get 0.04272. So let's just go out to 3 decimal places, okay? Okay, now determine the standard deviation when you have an observed proportion of 36 of 57 in your population. So this is going to be 36 divided by 57. Now I need to do 1 minus that. So remember that just 57 minus 36. And I get, so it's 21 over 57 divided by 57, and I take the square root of that. And that is equal to 0.064. Okay, so now let's go to 3. So my P is going to be 0.628. Now I can't do this in my head, so 1 minus 0.628. So I get 0.372 divided by 47, and I take the square root, and I get 0.071. Okay, so now we're going to be doing confidence intervals. All right, so remember the formula, use your formula, so it's going to be estimate plus or minus the margin of error. Okay, so my estimate is 0.35 plus or minus 0.06. So I subtract 0.06 and I get 0.29, comma, and I add it and I get 0.41. Okay? Now they tell us a confidence interval where P is 0.45 and the sample size is 180. So what I have to do here is I have to find my margin of error. And remember that margin of error is equal to twice the standard error of P hat. So I have to find the standard error of P hat. So that's going to be 0.45 times 55 divided by 180, and I take the square root. And I get 0.037. Now that's my standard error. So my margin of error is equal to 2 times 0.037. And I get 0.074. Gee winkies, I need more room. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my color. And I'm going to erase this part right here. So my formula simply becomes 0.45 plus or minus 0.074. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract those two numbers. So 0.45 minus 0.074, and I get 0.376. Now I'm going to add those two numbers, 0.75 plus 0.074, and I get decimal 524. Okay. All right, let's go down to 6. Determine a 95% confidence interval when you have a ratio of 35 out of 58. So with that in mind, my P hat is equal to 35 over 58. Remember, the smaller number has to be on top. All right, so now I have to find my standard error. So that is going to be 35 divided by 58. Now I have to subtract that from 1, so 58 minus 35. So I get Why is it messing with me? 23 over 58 divided by 58, and then I take the square root. And I get 0.064. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to change my colors because I have to erase things that I have written. And so let's just erase this. And so my formula is going to be 35, come on, right, divided by 58 plus or minus 2 times 0.064. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to subtract, and then I am going to add. So I'm going to do 35 divided by 58, and I'm going to say minus 2 times 0.064, and I get 0.475. And then I'm going to do 35 divided by 58 plus 2 times 0.064. And I get 0.731. All right? Determine a 95% confidence interval. Okay, so remember the formula is going to be p hat plus or minus 2 times the standard error. So this would be 0.17 plus or minus 2 times 0.08. So I'm going to subtract first, so 0.17 minus 2 times 0.08 gives me 0.01. Now I'm going to add 0.17 plus 2 times 0.08 gives me 0.33. Okay, now they asked us to find p hat. So my lower bound, which is 0.23, and my upper bound, which is 0.55. Remember, the midpoint is going to be p hat. Well, how do I find that? I'm going to find the average of the two. So 0.23 plus 0.55 divided by 2 gives me 0.39. So my p hat is 0.39. Okay, so for number 9, I need to find the margin of error. So again, remember that I have a lower bound, and I have an upper bound, and I have a p hat. And the distance between the two is my margin of error. So what I have to do is I have to find my p hat first. So we know that p hat is equal to 0.42 plus 0.78 divided by 2. So 0.42 plus 0.78 divided by 2, which gives me 0.6. So now I just subtract, so 0.6 minus 0.42 gives me 18. So my margin of error is equal to 0.18. Okay, now for number 10, they give us this interval and they ask us to find the standard error. So I like drawing. So I have my lower bound and I have my upper bound. So 0.33, 0.56, and remember p hat is in the middle. So p hat is equal to 0.33 plus 0.56 divided by 2. 0.445. Okay, so I know that the distance between these two is my margin of error. So 0.56 minus 0.445, 0.56 minus 0.445 is equal to 0.115. Okay? Now I know from the formula that margin of error is equal to twice the standard error of my p hat. So this is my margin of error, so 0.115 is equal to 2 times my standard error of p hat. Divide both sides by 2, because remember I need to find my standard error. And so I get down that my standard error of p hat is equal to 0.0575. And that is my answer. That was a lot.